Welcome to Sips and Spirits, a podcast for those that love spirits, both alcoholic and spectral kinds. I am your hostess, Chelsea.
And I'm your host, Eric. Before we get started, not a disclaimer, but if you guys notice, as you continue watching this video, you will not see this lovely setup with our house spook cookie shoulder like this and camera frame.
I know you're seeing a different angle today if you're watching this on YouTube.
Yes.
But if you're listening, you're going to get a little special treat today. But it's going to seem a little, for lack of words, choppy because we did something new and different and exciting. We're inviting a guest today for our episode.
We have a guest, and unfortunately, when we were recording our situation, and we ran into a few technical difficulties with different apps, different equipment having issues. So we had to...
First time for everything, there's always a learning curve,
yes.
Right? So the spooks were among us. Let's look at it that way.
Definitely among us. So hopefully this you guys still enjoy this episode. Yeah,
hopefully you guys can muscle through those little technical spurts with us as we work around them. And this is one of those parts. So without further ado, you ready to introduce this spook guest?
I'm not doing it. You
of
introduce
VIS, our very important spook tonight.
You're going to be the one introducing it.
All right. So our first encounter with this guest was at Midsummer Scream 2022 during Night of the Living Drag, where she made our undead hearts beat to her original song, Halloween Crowd, and rocked our bones with her 12-foot disco ball skeleton. MR HE is a bicoastal phantom with a signature BLUEBOY face, sandcastle heart, and a knack for all things spooky. She travels the world haunting audiences as both a solo act and alongside the hosts of Femme Anon. You can stalk MR HE everywhere, from Instagram to YouTube to Spotify. Simply search for a MR HE slasher, and this blue ghost will appear.
Period. Someone's been on my web. Someone has been on my website. I love it. I was like, wow, this sounds so in-depth and well written. I'm like, I wrote that. I'm dead. Well, hi. So happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, what are we drinking today?
All right, so today we are calling upon a cocktail courtesy of the ghost herself, MR HE. We are summoning a MR HE slasher, Shirley Temple, to the table.
Yummy. So, now that we have this little cocktail, let's all cheers.
Yes.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I'm like,
Clink.
My mouth totally made a bubbly noise. I have no idea what was that.
So, what ginger ale do you use for your...
Yeah, what's your ginger ale of preference?
I mean, Canada Dry should be everybody's ginger ale of preference. It is like the ginger ale of ginger ales.
Okay.
But I mean, people can also use 7-Up. I think a Shirley Temple. I think it's ginger ale, but I get it. 7-Up and cherries. As a sober girl, I have always gravitated towards Shirley Temples, and there is nothing funnier than being at the club when everyone is ordering their like really intense drinks and be like, "Can I get a Shirley Temple?" It's so like, I don't know. I just feel so like tiny and little. I'm like, I just want a little Shirley Temple. Thank you.
There we go.
So I had to, obviously, being a drag queen and working events, and I threw a big party, and I was like, okay, not everyone here is going to want a little sober drink, so I got to figure out how to like spice this up a bit.
I love it. And just with the syringes, it's so fun, so on brand.
I mean, I love props. Like half the fun of if you're going to go get a gourmet cocktail or you're going out, like you want the experience. So it was so fun. I had this like slasher bar, and it was like blood dripping everywhere and like, knives and, meat market. And it was like syringes full of blood. Half of them were blue, half of them were red. A cherry vodka versus like a, carousel. What? I can never say the word. A blue like carousel. And so everyone was getting their like bases, and then it was sort of like the injection, like, do you want it blue? Do you want it red? Do you want the grenadine? Like, it was so, it's an experience.
So I love this cocktail because it's very simple. It's
Iconic.
Shirley Temple's iconic, right?
Yes.
You can't go wrong with it. It's very classic and easy to make, and that's what makes it such a beautiful cocktail, even though it's a sober cocktail.
Yeah. No, it was very lovely. Sober or not sober. It's simple, straightforward, and you just pop it all together, and then it's a great cocktail to make for a crowd.
And I love the blue curacao. That's like a fun pop to it.
Yes, it is,
Hey,
sure.
well, work. I'm glad you enjoy it. If you hate it, that's fine too. You're allowed to not like it. I mean, and I get it. There's like the Roy Rogers, which is like the Coke and cherry. But I don't know, something about like a Shirley Temple. It's like the drag queen of a drink. A Shirley Temple. Come on. That is a drag name.
Groovy. So
Oh my goodness.
we were left off. Where can people find this recipe?
Yeah.
Is it a trade secret, or do you share it around?
Well, I guess now you can find it as a part of Sips and Spirits. I know
There we
it'll
go.
be on your website. I know it'll be in the description down below. I know it'll be everywhere that you keep your little recipes.
As long as
It
you want
was-
us to. Otherwise.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Share away. It's my personal little secret. It's what I love to serve, but like, that's fine. Go for it.
Okay, then we'll share with our world so they can find more Mr. He.
Yeah, push him more
I
in your
mean,
direction.
I know when I sent you it, I have like a full flyer.
Yeah,
It
it's
has
a
like
beautiful
the
flyer.
instructions. It has like taglines. It's
It's
excessive.
it's a very lovely flyer for sure. Kind of thing. Okay.
Okay. So, are you ready to answer some questions for us, Mr.
Uh,
Heath?
I'm ready.
We're ready.
You're like, yeah, after all these technical difficulties. Bleh. Okay, so as we mentioned earlier, Halloween crowd has become a household favorite of ours. But
We love it. Our kids love it.
yeah.
Yes.
Like it's often requested, especially from our 5-year-old. She loves it.
Okay, gag. I love that.
But we also enjoy your slew of other horror themed songs. So where did your inspiration for your macabre music come from?
So I actually went to school for original like performance material, and it sounds really cheesy to say, but like Rocky Horror Picture Show literally saved my life. Like
Yes.
the first time I saw it, I was so uncomfortable and disgusted and like didn't know what I had watched because I was in middle school and I watched it at my friend's house, and then I came home and I could not stop asking questions about it to my dad. Like, it was this weird movie and this happened and I don't understand, but I just needed to know more about it. And so my dad explained to me like, oh, it's a whole experience. It's not just a movie. I'm like, what, what do you well, you go to the movie theater and you dress up and you throw things at the screen, and I lit up at the thought that a movie could be interactive because I love theater, but I'd never thought of like cinema theater.
Hmm.
So I was 13 and the Universal Studios Halloween Horror Nights was doing a tribute show to Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Oh wow.
Nice.
So, as a part of Halloween Horror Nights, I got to go and experience this like 20-minute, 30-minute version of Rocky Horror of like the hits, and throw things and scream. And that moment on, I was like, this is what I want to make. I want to make this feeling of like absolute liberation and exploration in like the unknown, you know? And so that's where it all started. And then, of course, once you start to discover Elvira and you start to see these, like iconic figures in like the world of macabre,
Mhm.
especially for me along the lines of like melancholy. You know, I love that queer estranged otherness that I think not only relates to the queer experience, but to just horror in general being sort of like the monster.
Oh yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Cool. That's
I
very
love that.
awesome. Yeah.
Now, I'm a Rocky Horror virgin. I've grown up watching Rocky Horror for as long as I can remember, but I have never been to a live performance. Have you?
I have not.
Okay.
It's something we've talked about wanting to do. Um, but now with the little ones, it makes it a little harder to do.
I mean,
Kind of,
fair, but
yeah.
oh my god, it
But
is you you have to go with the right group. You have to go with the right theater. Like some theaters have been doing it for years and they are like down to clown. Other theaters, you can tell um don't want to deal with the mess.
hmm we really wanted to go to a live horror show, but we just never had a chance to. And whatnot, and now with the kids, it makes it a little more harder. But we recently moved, so my mom's a lot closer to us, and so it'll make it easier for her to come babysit the kids while we can go out for a night. So that's
I
the great.
love that. Come on, mom.
Really glad that. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So, what does Mr. He enjoy most when haunting the bed sheets of Parker, Allen, Stanley? So, when you are all ready to go as Mr. He, what are the things that Mr. He would call a night out on the town?
It's been very different since I've moved to California. When I was living in New York, my drag family and I were infamous for like the dark club warehouse scene. We were club kids for New York City's working for, you know, Suzanne Barsh and this woman named Lady Fag and having these extremely extravagant get-togethers. And we were sort of the creatures of the night that would emerge or perform or do whatever, and then you come to Orange County and it's for a podcast. It's been such a dramatic, drastic shift. Just because that doesn't really exist out here. But what does exist out here is Midsummer Scream and all the Halloween events. So it's been really fun to build and create sort of installations and sets and pieces and drag shows for a space or in a culture that didn't really have it before. So it's been really fun to sort of build that.
Okay. Moving along.
All right. So your new podcast, not your new one, but your new podcast, Calendar Ghouls, is all about holiday themed horror. Can you go into why you chose to get hung up on horror based around the holidays?
Of course. I love holiday horror. It is, how do I explain this? So the best part about horror is the subgenres of horror, and that can get so insanely intricate in terms of categories and subgenres. Like there's one subgenre called fingor, where something awful happens to someone's finger.
Oh, wow.
And when I did The Bride of, my single artwork being the severed ring finger, I was like, oh my god, I've officially reached fingor. And holiday horror is so fascinating to me because obviously Halloween, the franchise, is holiday horror. It's about a
Right.
holiday. Black Christmas is about a holiday. And I don't think a lot of people realize that those two films really sort of launched and created the successful slasher genre.
Mm-hmm.
And they're about holidays. But because of the success of those films, everyone tried to rip off other miscellaneous holidays.
Uh-huh.
And so you have this slew of such random films that came in attempts to be a Black Christmas or a Halloween and just failed so drastically. And it's been so fun to watch the attempts and see what they did and celebrate that holiday while watching it. My Bloody Valentine is probably one of the most successful slashers there is, also a holiday. you know, Leprechaun isn't very well known, but when they were making it, Jennifer Aniston was the lead. Like, they were probably really hoping that Leprechaun was going to be a top tier film.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, and in my opinion, it is. Maybe not to everybody else. But I just love, like, it's been really fun to do New Year's and to do I did a Lunar New Year, which through the podcast I learned it's not just the Chinese New Year,
Yeah.
where we watched a rabbit film to celebrate Year of the Rabbits. And people like the holidays and it's fun to celebrate. So it's been really cool to create a podcast that feels really celebratory, and to celebrate we watch an awful film.
I've seen Leprechaun way back when.
Yeah.
Funny thing, I saw it in Spanish.
Oh, interesting. That's fun.
I grew up in Mexico when I was a lot younger, and most of the horror films get dubbed in Spanish. They have like the same like 5 actors to do all the voices, but and
Uh-huh.
whatnot. I've been trying to get Chelsea to watch it, but
I have watched it.
you have watched Leprechaun?
Yeah.
Okay. I was getting Chelsea to watch the rest of the Leprechaun series.
Oh yeah, there's 8 of them.
I'm very curious to see how they goes, kind of thing, and
Crazy.
whatnot. But it's definitely it's a different movie for sure, but it's quite enjoyable, I think.
It's super campy.
Yeah.
I did just find, you want to talk about awful films? I found a film called Cinco de Mayo. That is because I've been trying to like plan out my year.
Yeah.
And
Right.
it looks so bad. Like, it looks like a group of friends were like, Cinco de Mayo is missing a horror film. Let's make one. I am so excited to watch this mess because
That sounds.
I am rooting for it. Like, I'm wanting it to be good because the trailer I watched, oh wow, it is.
I'm gonna have to look that up to see what it's like.
Oh yeah, it's messy. It's messy.
From our brief interactions during Midsummer Scream 2022, you slayed every look that you wore each day. I loved each and every one. But so what has been your favorite ensemble to strut?
At Midsummer Scream or in general?
Just in general.
Ooh, okay. My favorite ensemble to strut. So this is really funny. One of my two most iconic looks. It's not really even me in drag. My number one most iconic look is from my photo with Lady Gaga. And I have like tights over my face, and I actually used blue eyeshadow over it. So I'm still sort of blue in that, sense. But that outfit, I was the Koons ball, Jeff Koons's gazing ball, and she straddled me so we could recreate her art pop album cover. And that was a moment where I had worn that outfit 7 times because my friends and I are like diehard Gaga fans, and we got invited to her original art rave, and Jeff Koons took a photo with me and then her team. Anyway, that outfit has so much like sentimental value to me that I've like packaged it up and like tucked it away, in my closet. Like, this is the outfit that changed my life. The outfit itself is so lousy, but it got me to that point. And it's funny because in reflection, I'm like, oh my God, it's blue. Like, blue has just been such a reoccurring theme. Other than that, I was infamous in the New York nightlife scene for having this like ginormous head, in which it was like my trade secret as to how I was able to pull this off. But I couldn't fit in cars. I couldn't fit in doorways. It became such a hassle because every night I would go to the club, I would make this like cellophane saran wrap head bigger and bigger and bigger. And that was, again, like, it was a performance piece that led into this like one-man show I did at La Mama. But those two were definitely like such game changers for me. But in terms of just like looking cute and having fun, my Scream outfit that I wore to Midsummer Scream was definitely pretty top tier.
Yeah, that one was really well done.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I had so many of my friends talking about it, so
Good.
yeah, like Midge Munster is a
Yeah.
diehard Scream fan, and she was just like, "Did you see Mr. He's outfit on that day?" She was just in
Yes.
awe.
Good, I'm glad. I mean, my, friend Falik made that, and it is so gorgeous, and I was like, "Please, you have to let me wear this outfit, like, it is so gorge," and he was very gracious to let me steal it for a weekend.
There we go.
Yes.
Cool.
All right. Am I asking another question?
You ask all the questions.
Okay.
You have a better voice than I do.
As I'm over here clearing my throat. Do you have any spirited experiences from beyond the grave you would be willing to share? So anything supernatural or haunted or horror esque?
Yes, I actually do. So, the apartment I was living in New York was haunted.
Ooh.
It is a very funny story. It was a very nice ghost. We had no issues. We called him the gentleman in a top hat because that was the figure that was always reoccurring in 306 Cornelia, the building in Brooklyn. And I saw it one night. You go up middle of the night, you're going to go to the restroom, you're going to get a glass of water, and I stopped in my tracks because I thought I saw someone, like an intruder in our house. You turn off the lights and there's nothing there. I'm like, okay, weird. Like, I'm not, I'm not gonna think about it again. Fast forward to my roommate Mac at the time, my drug sister Lick. One day he goes, "Oh my gosh, I saw the weirdest thing last night." I'm like, "Oh, like what? What was it?" It's like, I was coming out, and I swear in the living room by the kitchen, I saw this man in a top hat. And I could feel it in my stomach. I was like,
Ooh.
"You're lying. Right? Did someone tell you to say that?" And he's like, "What?" I'm like I've seen him too. And so we were like, "Okay, whatever. We're not gonna worry about it." So we were infamous for hosting dinner parties, and every month we'd host a really extremely themed, curated dinner party called Feast. And okay, example, the theme would be campfire. The whole meal would be things you would eat at a campfire, but when guests arrived, all of our furniture was gone, and you had to build a tent in the living room and eat inside.
Oh,
Like,
wow, that's so cool.
literally, we were so unbelievably chaotic. And so at one of these dinner parties, we were like, "Oh my God, like our apartment is haunted." Like going on and on about how there's this ghost, how it's a nice ghost and we're not pissing him off, but we're aware that we're sharing this apartment. And one of our guests like did not like that we were talking about ghosts or speaking about ghosts, and was sort of really demeaning, like, "Oh, ghosts aren't real, blah, 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 blah," like all this stuff. I kid you not, a glass from our bar cart goes flying.
What?
And every single person at the dinner party, like, stood up and was like, "There's no way." But here's the thing. Everyone knows me and my love for horror and haunted houses. So they're instantly like, "You set this up. This is some sort of haunted house trick, some sort of haunted house gag." And I'm like, No. Like, that's not even my bar cart. Like, I don't even drink. Like, that's math. I wouldn't touch that. And after that moment, we were like, "Okay, so he's here. We're not gonna piss him off, but now everyone is aware." Cut to a year goes by, whatever. I get a new roommate. Mac goes and starts traveling, all this stuff. He goes downstairs. Detroit then comes in, my drag sister. And la la la, don't even think anything of it. A few months into Detroit living there, one morning, he's like, "Oh my God, Parker, I saw the weirdest thing last night. I swear to God, I saw a man." And then at the same time, we go, "With a top hat."
Oh my
Oh my
god.
God,
And
wow.
he like you could see his face, like, "You've seen him?" And I'm like, "Did Mac set you up to this? Did Mac tell you that there is a spirit here?" And he's like, "No, no, like, no, I swear to God, no one's like putting me on. I didn't say that." And so, yeah, we have all of my roommates saw it. Our dinner party guests experienced it. There was a man in a top hat. We tried to like do research once to be like, who has lived at 306 Cornelia? And if anyone is like a professional sleuth, like look it up and let me know. But yeah, there was definitely a man in a top hat, and he had a cat, because you would see his like ghost cat like follow him around, because you would see it like
Oh.
jump in the window. It was so weird and so funny, but
Oh my
for that
gosh.
reason, we were like, okay, so we can't like egg him on. We can't like get a Ouija board because he will, participate.
Oh yes, for sure. Wow, that is so
Wow, that's
cool.
intense.
Yeah, super, super spooky, scary skeletons.
There we go, for sure. For sure. Awesome. Oh, okay. So as you've heard in our episodes, we do have a would you rather on most of our episodes, half of them now. And so we came up with one for theme for today. Since your handle is a Mr. He slasher, I am theming our would you rather on a slasher idea. If you were stuck in a slasher film,
Mm-hmm.
would you rather be a slasher film that is taking place at a campsite, kind
Mm.
of in that aspect, or a slasher film that takes place in a amusement park?
Ooh, good question. My instinct is to say campsite. I feel like that's way more iconic, as well as what I love about a campsite is the ability to run. Like you can just go into the woods, hide in a tree. There are so many miscellaneous items. If it's a really nice campsite, like if it's just a tent, you're screwed. But if it's like a camp, you know what I mean? Like a
Yeah.
Mhm.
summer camp, well then you've got the kitchen, you've got this, you've got that, you've got, bunk beds. Like there's so many more locations where I feel like an amusement park, it's a lot of dead space. You can't
Mhm.
just like run on a roller coaster or like hide in. Also, it's like, okay, you hide in the Ferris wheel and then what? The slasher guy turns it on? Like you're
Right.
screwed. No.
to, to tell me a Scooby Doo movie episodes happen in an amusement park.
Exactly. And I mean, the new Terrifier film, Terrifier 2, like the big grand finale scene happens in an amusement park, like in the haunted house ride at an amusement park.
Uh-huh.
Which was actually filmed at Fright Factory in Pennsylvania. Because I was
Oh,
watching it
cool.
like, oh, I've been there. I've been in that haunted house. But yeah, I would have to go campsite. I just feel I'm definitely fight or flight. I'm a fight, and I just feel like I would have more
More
tools
luck,
at
yeah.
my dispense.
There you go. What
Yeah.
about you, Chelsea?
I'd probably pick like the campsite or the campgrounds.
Hmm.
Because yeah, you can run into the forest. There's lots of places to hide,
Hmm.
unless you're like in one of those like meadowy campgrounds. But
Hmm.
really, like even like a lot of like camps are like based near a lake or whatever. So
Yeah,
if
you
you're
also
a
have
good
the water.
swimmer, you
Are you a
can
swimmer?
Yeah.
escape into the water or at least get to the other side. And because there's usually some other sort of establishment get help.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure.
Or
No,
maybe if you're lucky, you get the right forest and you run into a cryptid and it takes care of the bad
there we
guy for
go.
Mm,
Cryptic and
yeah.
slashers together. Yeah, I think no, and I have to agree with both of you here. Definitely, I would choose a campsite myself. Um, the amusement park is an interesting idea, but like you said, there's so many dead space. It's just open space and nowhere to like.
It's a lot of running.
You can hide behind like a booth for so long. Kind of thing. Well, in the forest or in a campsite, there's so many other places to hide. Just can keep swinging back and forth. You know, is that the person I'm chasing, or is that just an animal
Yeah.
walking by? So you have a lot of safer things to be in that aspect of things.
Well, and then like you do hide in a booth, like
Yeah,
in an amusement park. Where do you go after he finds you?
yeah,
You
you get
can't
stuck there.
like keep going.
God,
The one
Ben?
positive would probably be that at an amusement park, there's no like other things. You know,
Yeah,
like if
that's
you're at the lake and you're jumping in the water, you're immediately like, what else is in the water? Or, you know, yeah, you're scared of the killer, but you're like, is there sharks? Are there crocodiles? Are there alligators? What's in this body of water? Versus at
exactly.
an amusement park, if it's just you and the killer, like you're not
Just you
really
two.
you're not really facing off any other things.
Mhm.
There's that aspect thing, I think. But
Yeah.
yeah, cool.
Cool.
Fantastic. Okay, I think it's time to
So,
wrap
yeah,
this.
we're ready for our last call here.
Okay. this was an adventure for sure.
I know.
So we'll see how this turns out, kind of thing. So
We do want to say thank you.
thank you for sipping along with us, Mr. He, and
dealing with all our technical difficulties.
yeah, all the
it was
difficulties
so
in trying to get this
hectic, and
as smooth as we can.
you've been so patient with us, and we really appreciate it.
Oh my
For
gosh,
sure,
of
for
course.
sure.
I will say, you guys have been very professional. The emails you send, all the QR codes, everything. I'm like, I would have just expected like a text to DM being like, meet us at 10 a.m. No. You were doing this right. You're taking it so seriously, which
That's
I
all her.
appreciate.
That's
I am.
all her.
Thank you.
It's working.
There we go. Fantastic.
I don't want anyone to feel lost. Like, I've been there where it's like, okay, they told me this time, but like, what did I need to have together? Or how do they want me to set up or what? So I don't want anyone to feel like how I felt in the past trying to do stuff. So I've learned.
I get it.
So can you remind our guests where they can find Mr. He?
Yeah. Where can everyone go and enjoy a Mr. He slasher?
Well, I mean, that's sort of the trick. I am a mystery. I try to keep myself very archived and hidden. You can find me weekly on my podcast, Mr. He's Calendar Ghouls, and monthly on my other podcast, Selma and Salem. Obviously on all podcast streaming services. You can find me on Instagram at a Mr. He Slasher. And anywhere else if you're lucky enough to see me in real life.
There we go. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to shout out for our guests to look forward to?
Let's see. I mean, I guess the Sips and Spirits podcast episode on Calendar Girls, because we're gonna have to do some holiday together. It's only fair that, you know, we podcast switch. Other than that, I'm super excited for Selma and Salem to come out, where Detois and I are focusing on blaxploitation films. Our episode on Coffee is coming out soon, and it is such a fun film. If you're unfamiliar with the blaxploitation genre, it is so campy, it is so fun, and it's been really fun to dive into it with Detois. And this is, of course, our big Black History Month kickoff celebration, and I can't wait for people to hear it.
Awesome. Yeah, we can't wait to tune into it because I've been slowly catching up on Calendar Ghouls and just enjoying it greatly.
Oh, well, thank you so much. If you have any feedback, please let me know. Like, I love to know and learn, and I am new to this too, so it's nice to be like, okay, people like this, they don't like this. It's tricky because I feel like a lot of people haven't seen the films, so I'm like, should I treat it as if they haven't seen the films, or like,
well, yeah,
we can get into that later, but you get what I mean.
Well, I mean, and I was gonna say, like, I've been able to put a bunch of films on my to watch list because it's like, oh, I haven't heard of this, but you guys, like, there's always very fun, interesting takeaway from each of the episodes that makes me like, oh, I definitely want to take a look at this and see if I get what they're talking about.
Yay, I love that.
Yeah. So if that sounds like your kind of thing, definitely check out Mr.
for
He's
sure.
Calendar
And the episodes I've been able to catch have been very enjoyable as well. And it's like, ooh, now I'm gonna go check out this movie and whatnot, kind of thing.
Amazing.
Yeah.
All right. So, and as always, thanks to our listeners for sipping along with us. Be sure to give Mr. He a follow. And you guys can find us on all podcasting hosts as well as YouTube. We love to put video formats. That's our preference for consuming podcasts. So that was a big mission of mine to make sure that happened. So you can see the beautiful Mr. He as well. And yeah, I took away a little bit of your spiel.
That's okay. Don't worry about it. But yeah, so once again, cheers, Mr. He. Thank you again. You
Thank
have a
you.
wonderful weekend. And we look forward to being in your podcast.
Yes.
Yes, can't wait. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.